With my last table saw, I had a full router table built into the extension wing, router lift, fence, all that good stuff. And it worked out really well. I really enjoyed it. But when I acquired this saw, I gave my last table saw and the whole router assembly to a friend of mine. And since then said that, I really like that setup. I'm going to build a dedicated floor standing router table, which is what I ultimately want. And due to procrastination and layout changes and all that crap, I haven't gotten around to making a floor standing unit. And I had the idea to, I could downsize the rails on this table saw because I never use the full capacity. I would much rather make the first cut on a sheet of plywood with a circular saw and bring a much more manageable size sheet to the table saw. And that would give me some more floor space kind of in the shop to allow for a router table. And that was just kind of a dumb thought, because why not just use this space to put another router lift back into this extension wing. So that's the game plan today. I typically put the right side of my table saw up against a wall of some kind. In the last setup, it was against this door. I just rotated 90 degrees, no major changes, but that gave me access to this side over here. So now I'm going to tear this wing out and put a whole new setup in here that is made based upon my last lever router lift design, but a little bit beefier because I'm going to use a little bit larger router. And it should work out all right. So I'm over at the drill press drilling the holes for the carriage piece on the back side here, and these holes should have been Forstner bit holes to establish a counterbore, and then the through holes. I got the music going and I'm just jamming and getting ahead of myself, and I drilled all the through holes. So you should drill the Forstner bit holes first for the counterbore, that way you have a center point that you can drill all the way through. I can still drill the counterbore, but it's just going to be backwards, and I know someone's going to say something about it, so I screwed up. Okay, so this is lever router lift version 2. It's just larger, so we'll call it lever router lift XL. And the dust collection is just slightly tweaked, and I'll get into that in just a second. So basically, the concept of the lever router lift is that there's a pivot point over here. The pivot point has multiple locations you can choose from, and then also you can drill multiple holes. You can put it anywhere you want to really dial in the mechanical advantage. And the mechanical advantage is because you are lifting way over here, and the pivot point is way over here. This is much easier to lift. And the carriage on the inside has a shaft coming out that it has this knob on it as well as this pivoting block. And as you loosen it, you can raise and lower the router as needed and simply lock it into place. Very easy to do so. Now, I still have to do some slight refinements here. This handle needs to be shaped, cut it off just a little bit smaller. That's fine. And I still have to make 2 locking knobs to go on this slot over here. Exact same concept as this. But over here. And the point of these 2 knobs are, number 1, to have a bottom stop if you do want a bottom stop anywhere, or a secondary safety lock to where I can put this bottom one right here and guarantee no matter what that I'll never drop any elevation, which I don't think will ever be an issue so long as there is sandpaper behind this pivoting block. With some 220 grit or 320 grit sandpaper, that's plenty enough friction with this lock so that this carriage won't go anywhere. But there is an extra safety net over here. And then also a secondary block up on top as a positive vertical stop. And what I mean by that is I designed this router lift, the original one, to go into my table saw extension wing so that if I needed to use the full capacity of the table saw, I could quickly set a positive height stop for the router lift and then remove or drop the router, use the table saw as needed, get the table saw fence out of the way once again, and then return back to that known elevation with the router with that positive stop over here. I've yet to make those 2. Like I said, the same concept as this lock right here. I just haven't made them just yet. So that's that. It's working out quite well. This is a 48-inch long bar. It's way out to here. That's way too long. Once I get this in place and figure out how much room I have around its final destination, then I'll determine how much of this I'll cut off. But even at the edge closest to the box here, it's still easy to use. And yeah, that's it. Just a few more refinements, but the prototype, this is the first time I've done this internal carriage, the prototype is complete. Still want to add some magnets to the bottom side of this block so it'll hold the lever in place. And yeah, very happy with this one, and I'd say it's actually just a little bit easier to build than the first design due to not having metal slides on the inside. Just pieces of metal that I made my own slides with. But let me show you the changed dust collection, because that I think will be pretty nifty. Once again, the lift is pretty easy to use, and if I lock this down, you can see that this whole box, the carriage itself, is no longer a front plate attached to the front of the assembly itself. It's instead an entire box that rides inside another box. And what this allows me to do is put the dust collection back here. This bottom panel is just held on with a couple screws. I'll eventually take it off, cut a 4-inch diameter hole, and put the a 4-inch dust port down on the bottom of it. And that'll put the dust collection right with the router. So what that does is it puts the bottom of the router, which is where the air intake is for the router, outside the dust collection path, and it can suck up some nice clean air. Now I've got some slots over here, or some extra openings over here. These are going to allow the dust collection to never be starved, because if I have this dust collection sealed off nice and tight, and the only way for dusty air to come in is through the fence where the router will actually be cutting. If I have the fence nice and tight, and I have a nice tight tolerance here, I'm going to starve my dust collector, especially if I'm using a 4-inch diameter opening. So between these smaller openings and the fence, we should have great dust collection without ever starving the dust collector of any air. And I'm really excited to see how that performs. That's it for this one. I mainly just wanted to get this concept built and tested before I proceed with taking the time to make a set of plans for this. I'll cover installing this in a new wing in my table saw, as well as the router fence in another video. But if you're interested in a set of plans for this, I don't have them at the time of this video being published, and probably won't for the next week or so. But in the description below, you'll find a link where you can sign up to be notified of when the plans are available. And if you're watching this in the future, then odds are plans are available, and I'll change that link down below. Be sure to check out my website, jayscustomcreations.com. In the sidebar, sign up for my email newsletter to be notified of just about all the stuff that I've got going on. You guys take care, have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.